Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom shimmered like a jewel box, its crystal chandeliers casting a golden glow over New York's elite men in tailored Tom Ford tuxedos, clinked glasses of Dom Perignon with women draped in Chanel and Dior, their laughter mingling with the soft hum of a string quartet. At the center of it all stood Ava Johnson, or rather Sophia Clark, the enigmatic CEO of Horizon Enterprises. Her sleek black gown from Oscar de la Renta hugged her curves, the slit revealing just enough to turn heads. Her hair, a cascade of dark curls pinned beneath a flawless wig, framed a face that radiated power, but beneath the poised exterior, Ava's heart pounded. Tonight wasn't just about sealing a deal for Brooklyn's redevelopment. It was about survival. She stepped to the podium, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor. The crowd hushed, eyes fixed on her. Horizon Enterprises isn't just building a future for Brooklyn, she said, her voice smooth, but commanding. We're building a legacy. Affordable homes, green spaces, a community that thrives. She clicked a remote and a sleek presentation lit up the screen behind her. Blueprints, financial projections, and a vision that silenced even the skeptics. Applause erupted, but Ava's gaze darted to the back of the room. Vanessa Brooks stood there, her red lips twisted into a smirk, her eyes glinting with malice. Ava's stomach tightened. She knew that look. Trouble was coming. As she stepped down from the stage, a low groan echoed above. The massive chandelier, a glittering constellation of Swarovski crystals, swayed ominously. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ava froze her instincts, screaming. Then with a sickening crack, the chandelier plummeted, crashing onto the stage in a shower of glass and metal. Screams filled the air as guests scattered their designer heels, slipping on the debris. Ava stumbled back, a shard grazing her arm, warm blood trickling down her skin. Pain seared through her, but she stayed upright, her eyes locked on Vanessa. The woman's face was pale now, her triumph replaced by panic. Ava's fury ignited. She tore off her wig, letting her natural curls fall free, and slipped out the tinted contacts that had mimicked blindness for over a year. Her brown eyes, sharp and unyielding, burned into Vanessa. The crowd fell silent, stunned. "I'm not Sophia Clark," Ava said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I'm Ava Johnson, and you just tried to kill me." Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed like a fish gasping for air. "You're lying," she spat, but her voice trembled. Ava stepped closer, ignoring the blood dripping from her arm. "You hired someone to drop that chandelier, didn't you? All because your father, Marcus, wants my family's money." The accusation hung in the air, and Vanessa cracked. "So what if I did?" she shouted, her voice shrill. "Dad's drowning in debt and your fortune was our way out. You've got everything, money, power." Ethan gasps echoed through the ballroom. Ava's heart skipped at the mention of Ethan Caldwell, her husband through a cold contract marriage. She felt his presence before she saw him, his tall frame pushing through the crowd. His dark hair was mussed, his green eyes fierce with worry. "Ava," he said, his voice low, urgent. He reached her side, his hand steadying her elbow. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, though the pain in her arm begged to differ. "I'm fine," she lied, her gaze still on Vanessa. "But she won't be." Ava turned to the hotel staff, who were already on their radios. "Call the police. Hold her until they get here." Security guards moved in, grabbing Vanessa as she screamed, her manicured nails clawing at the air. The crowd buzzed, phones already out, recording the scandal that would light up social media by morning. Ethan pulled Ava into a side room, the heavy oak door muffling the chaos outside. The room was a cocoon of luxury velvet drapes, a mahogany bar, a single Tiffany lamp casting a warm glow, but Ava's world was spinning. Ethan's hands cupped her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks. "Ava, what the hell is going on?" His voice was a mix of anger and desperation. "Who are you?" Her breath caught. She dreaded this moment, the one where her lies unraveled. "I'm your wife," she said, her voice trembling. "But I've been pretending to be blind for a year. I had to Ethan to protect myself, to find out who killed my parents. Marcus Brooks is behind it, and I couldn't let him know I was onto him." Tears welled in her eyes, but she forced them back. "I wanted to tell you, but I was scared. I've lost everyone I've ever loved." Ethan's jaw tightened, pain flashing across his face. "You didn't trust me," he said, his voice breaking, but then he stepped closer, his body heat enveloping her. "I've been falling for you since the day I came home, Ava. The way you fight, the way you care. I see you, all of you." He leaned in his lips, brushing hers in a kiss that was both tender and fierce, like a promise sealed in fire. Ava melted into him, her hands gripping his jacket, the world fading until it was just them. A knock on the door shattered the moment. A security guard poked his head in. "Police are here, ma'am." Ava nodded, pulling back her lips, tingling. Ethan's hand found hers, his grip firm. "We'll face this together," he said. She believed him. But as they stepped back into the ballroom, Ava knew the storm was far from over. Marcus was still out there, and the truth about her parents' death was closer than ever. Months earlier, the Caldwell estate in the Hamptons felt more like a prison than a home. The sprawling mansion with its marble staircases and Norman Rockwell paintings reeked of old money. Ava stood in the grand ballroom, her hands clutching a bouquet of white roses, her eyes hidden behind tinted contacts that made the world a blurry lie. She was 25, orphaned, and to the guests whispering around her, a pitiful figure in a contract marriage to Ethan Caldwell, the heir to Caldwell Industries. The deal was simple. The Cal Ava's adoptive family. The Brooks had sold her to the Caldwells for a hefty payout, and Ethan's mother, Claire Montgomery, needed a bride to polish the family's image while Ethan recovered from a car accident. The ceremony was a blur of forced smiles and cold vows. Vanessa Brooks, Ava's cousin, leaned close, her perfume sharp and cloying. "You're just a charity case." "Ava," she hissed, adjusting Ava's veil with a cruel tug. Marcus Brooks, her uncle, stood nearby, his eyes gleaming with greed. The guests, New York's elite in their Armani suits and Louboutin heels, murmured their pity. "Poor thing, marrying a man who can't even look at her," one said. "The Brooks must be desperate to pawn her off." Another chuckled. Ava's hands trembled not from fear, but from rage. She'd been pretending to be blind for a year, a careful act to uncover the truth about her parents' death in a car crash. That was no accident. She'd regained her sight a year ago, a secret miracle after years of darkness caused by the trauma. With it, she'd discovered her parents' hidden fortune, a trust fund Marcus had tried to steal since she was a kid. That money had built Horizon Enterprises, her empire, under the alias Sophia Clark. No one in this room, not even the Caldwells, knew the power she held. As the reception began, Vanessa shoved a glass of champagne into Ava's hand. "Don't embarrass us, blind girl," she sneered, knowing Ava couldn't see the mocking faces around her. Ava lifted the glass, her lips grazing the rim, but her mind was elsewhere. She remembered the day she found her parents' trust fund papers hidden in a safe. Marcus thought she'd never crack. She'd spent every penny building Horizon, hiring a private investigator to dig into the crash. Every clue pointed to Marcus. Tonight she'd play the meek bride. But soon they'd all learn who Ava Johnson really was. Days later, Ava slipped away from the Hamptons to Manhattan, her heart pounding with purpose. In a penthouse at Hudson Yards, She shed her tinted lenses, donned a sleek wig, and transformed into Sophia Clark. The office was a masterpiece of modern luxury. A walnut desk, leather chairs from Italy, and a Kehinde Wiley painting that reminded her of her roots. Her voice, usually soft and hesitant, became sharp, commanding. At a corporate summit in a midtown skyscraper, New York's business titans gathered to bid on the Brooklyn redevelopment project. Sophia strode to the podium, her presence silencing the room. "Horizon's proposal is unmatched," she declared, unveiling data that outbid her rival Derek Vaughan, the brash CEO of Apex Ventures. Derek smirked from the front row. His blonde hair slicked back, his eyes raking over her. He'd spread rumors, calling her a nobody who'd climbed the ranks through charm. Sophia didn't flinch. Her numbers spoke louder than his lies. The room erupted in applause, and Derek's face twisted with fury. Sophia Clark was no nobody, and Ava Johnson was no victim. Back at the summit's cocktail hour, Sophia moved through the crowd, her wig and makeup a perfect disguise. She overheard Derek plotting to sabotage her next deal, but she only smiled. Every move he made, she'd counter. Her mind flashed to her parents, their laughter in their Atlanta home. The gospel songs her mom sang before the crash stole them away. The police had called it an accident, but Ava had found inconsistencies in the report. Marcus had been at their house the night before arguing with her dad. She'd spent the last year as a blind girl to watch him. To listen to learn Horizon wasn't just her empire, it was her weapon, back at the Caldwell estate. Ava slipped into her role as the meek bride. The mansion's marble floors and silent corridors felt like a cage. Marcus waited in the drawing room, his voice oily. "Ava, we need to talk about your parents' estate," he said, pacing. "I found a document years ago, a trust fund worth millions." Ava's heart raced, but she kept her face blank, her eyes unfocused. "I don't know. Uncle Marcus," she murmured. "I was just a kid when they died." His frustration boiled over. "You're useless," he snapped. Vanessa lounged nearby, filing her nails, her smirk sharper than a blade. They thought they could break her, but Ava's resolve only hardened. Alone in her room, she removed her lenses, staring into the mirror. Her parents' faces haunted her, their love, the only warmth she'd known before the Brooks cruelty. The trust fund Marcus sought was real, but Ava had already claimed it, funneling it into Horizon. Her investigator was closing in, and every clue pointed to Marcus's guilt. That night, Ava stood by her window. The Hampton stars faint against the city's glow. She clutched her mother's locket, a Tiffany & Co. piece engraved with a magnolia, a symbol of her southern roots. "I'll find the truth, Mom." "Dad," she whispered, "I'll make them pay." Her journey had just begun, and the Brooks, the Caldwells, and all of New York would soon learn who Ava Johnson truly was. Hey, y'all. If you're hooked on Ava's story and can't wait to see how she takes down Marcus and fights for her love with Ethan, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. What do you think? Can Ava trust Ethan with her heart? Let us know, and stay tuned for the next chapter of The Morning After the Gala. Ava Johnson sat in her penthouse at Hudson Yards, the Manhattan skyline stretching out like a glittering promise. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, her arm bandaged from the chandelier crash throbbed under the sleeve of her silk blouse. But the pain was nothing compared to the fire in her chest. Vanessa Brooks was in custody, her confession echoing in Ava's mind. "Dad's drowning in debt, and your fortune was our way out." Marcus Brooks, her adoptive uncle, was the puppet master, and Ava was done playing his game. Her phone buzzed on the walnut desk, snapping her out of her thoughts. A text from Marcus, short and venomous. "I know you're not blind. Pay me $10 million or I post these online." Attached was a grainy photo of forged trust fund papers accusing Ava of stealing her parents' fortune. Her pulse raced, but she forced herself to breathe. She'd anticipated his greed, hired a private investigator to trace his every move. Marcus thought he had her cornered, but Ava was already 3 steps ahead. She slipped on her tinted contacts, transforming back into the meek blind bride of Ethan Caldwell. The drive to the Caldwell estate in the Hamptons felt like stepping into a lion's den. The mansion's marble columns and manicured gardens screamed old money, but to Ava, it was a battlefield. Marcus waited in the drawing room, his cheap cologne clashing with the room's leather-bound books and crystal decanters. He paced, his bald head gleaming under the chandelier. "Ava, we need to talk," he said, his voice slick as oil. "Your parents left a fortune, and I've got proof. A trust fund worth millions. Where is it?" Ava kept her face blank, her eyes unfocused behind the contacts. "I don't know, Uncle Marcus," she murmured, her voice small. "I was just a kid when they died." His frustration boiled over. "Don't play dumb," he snapped, slamming a fist on the mahogany table. A glass of Napa Valley Cabernet wobbled, but didn't fall. "You're sitting on that money, and I want my share." Vanessa's absence was a small mercy, but Ava could feel her cousin's ghost in the room, those smirks, those taunts. She clutched her mother's locket, the Tiffany & Co. magnolia engraving warm against her skin. "I don't have anything," she said, letting her voice tremble. Let Marcus think she was weak. It would make his downfall sweeter. As she left the drawing room, her cane tapping for show, Ava's mind raced. She needed to neutralize Marcus before he went public with his lies. Lila Carter, her best friend and a badass lawyer from Harlem, was already digging into the forged documents. Lila's text came through as Ava stepped into the rose garden. "Marcus's papers are fake, but he's got a hacker ready to spread them. Meet me tonight." That evening, Ava convinced Ethan to take a trip to Savannah, Georgia, her family's ancestral home. She needed space to think, to plan, and maybe, just maybe, to see if Ethan could love the real her. The private jet, a sleek Gulfstream with leather seats and a stocked bar, landed at Savannah Hilton Head Airport under a cotton candy sunset. Ethan held her hand as they stepped onto the tarmac, his touch steady but curious. "You sure about this, Ava?" he asked, his green eyes searching her face. "You seem different since the gala." She forced a smile, her contacts hiding the truth. "I just need to feel home for a bit," she said. "Will you come with me?" He squeezed her hand. "Ride or die right." The drive to the Johnson family farm was a journey back in time. The road wound through fields of golden grass past oak trees draped in Spanish moss, their branches swaying like old storytellers. The farmhouse, a white clapboard beauty with a wide porch, smelled of magnolia blossoms and history. Ava's grandparents had built it, their sweat and songs woven into the wood. She led Ethan inside her cane, left in the car, her steps sure but careful. "This is where I spent my summers," she said, running her fingers over a quilt on the couch, its patches stitched with love. "My grandma taught me how to sing gospel here, and my grandpa told stories about the civil rights marches." Ethan's eyes softened. "You carry them with you, don't you?" She nodded, her throat tight. Always that night under a sky full of stars. They walked through the magnolia fields behind the house. The air was warm, thick with the scent of flowers and earth. Ava's simple linen dress clung to her skin, her curls free from the wig, catching the moonlight. Ethan stopped, turning to her. "Dance with me," he said, his voice low, almost a challenge. "There's no music," she teased, but her heart was racing. He pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other guiding her hand to his shoulder. "We'll make our own." They swayed their bodies, brushing the heat between them undeniable. His breath grazed her ear, sending a shiver down her spine. "You're trouble, Ava Johnson," he murmured. "And you're not ready for it," she shot back, her voice husky. His laugh was warm, but his grip tightened, pulling her closer until their hearts seemed to beat as one. For a moment, the world was just them, the rustle of leaves, the hum of crickets, the promise of something real. But Ava's secrets loomed a shadow she couldn't outrun. The next day, they visited a small gospel church on the outskirts of Savannah, its white steeple glowing against the morning sky. Ava had insisted, saying she wanted to honor her parents. Inside the pews were filled with familiar faces, elders who'd known her as a girl, their voices rising in a hymn that shook the rafters. Ava sat beside Ethan, her contacts making the stained glass windows a blur, but she felt every note in her bones. When the choir launched into amazing grace, Ava's composure cracked. She stood joining the singers, her voice rich and raw, carrying years of pain and hope. Ethan watched, his jaw tight, his eyes wide. She wasn't just singing, she was bearing her soul. But then, as she returned to her seat, she caught a glimpse of a child waving from the aisle. Instinctively, she waved back a split-second mistake. Ethan's gaze sharpened. "Ava," he said, his voice low, as they stepped outside the church's oak trees, casting dappled shadows. "You saw that kid, didn't you?" Her stomach dropped. "What?" "No." She fumbled, her heart pounding. "Don't lie to me," he said, stepping closer, his voice a mix of hurt and suspicion. "You're not blind, are you? What else are you hiding?" The air between them crackled, charged with tension. Ava's hands shook, the weight of her secrets crushing her. "Ethan, you don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I can't tell you, not yet. Please, just trust me." "Trust you," he snapped, running a hand through his dark hair. "I'm trying, Ava, but you're making it damn hard." He turned, walking toward the car, leaving her standing alone under the oaks. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them away. She couldn't lose him. Not now. Not when Marcus was closing in, back in New York. Ava slipped into her Sophia Clark persona, her wig and power suit, a shield against the world. Horizon Enterprises was under fire. Derek Vaughn, the slick CEO of Apex Ventures, had hired a hacker to leak fake financial reports, claiming Horizon was bleeding money. The stock dipped and investors started pulling out. Ava called an emergency press conference at the plaza, the same ballroom where she'd nearly died. The room was packed. Reporters, business moguls, and a smirking Derek in the front row, his Rolex glinting under the lights. Ava took the stage, her suit from Tom Ford sharp as a blade, her curls hidden, but her confidence blazing. "Horizon Enterprises is stronger than ever," she declared, clicking through slides that exposed Derek's lies, bank records, email trails, even a recorded call where he bragged about burying that nobody CEO. The crowd murmured, then applauded. Derek's smirk vanished, his face red as he stormed out. Ava caught Lila's eye from the sidelines, her friend giving her a nod. Game on. But the victory was bittersweet. Back at the penthouse, Ava sipped a glass of Napa Valley Chardonnay, staring at the city lights. Derek was down, but Marcus was the real threat. Her phone pinged with a coded email from her investigator. "Marcus Brooks was at your parents' Atlanta home hours before the crash. Argued about money, found a wrench with his prints at the scene." Ava's hand shook as she read the words. The crash wasn't an accident. It was murder. Marcus hadn't just stolen her family's money, he'd stolen her family. The next morning, Ava drove to the Savannah riverfront, the Ogeechee River sparkling under the sun. She sat on a bench, the locket warm against her chest, its magnolia engraving a reminder of her mission. Marcus thought he could break her, but he'd underestimated her. She'd built Horizon from nothing, turned her pain into power. But Ethan's words haunted her. "What else are you hiding?" She wanted to tell him everything, to shed the lies and let him see her, all of her. But the risk was too great. If he turned away, it would shatter her. As the river flowed, Ava made a silent vow. She'd bring Marcus to justice no matter the cost. But her heart whispered a quieter promise she'd fight for Ethan too. The magnolias swayed in the breeze, their petals falling like soft promises, and Ava knew the storm was just beginning. The Caldwell estate in the Hamptons was quiet, but to Ava Johnson it hummed with secrets. The mansion's marble floors gleamed under chandeliers, and the scent of roses from the garden drifted through open windows. Ava sat in her room, her tinted contacts discarded her brown eyes, staring at her reflection in a gilt-framed mirror. The locket around her neck, a Tiffany & Co. piece engraved with a magnolia, felt heavier than ever. Her investigator's email burned in her mind. Marcus Brooks's fingerprints on a wrench. Proof he'd tampered with her parents' car. Murder, not an accident. But the truth came with a price, and Ava was running out of time to pay it. Ethan Caldwell's suspicions were growing, his questions sharper every day. Last night in the Savannah church, he'd caught her slip waving at a kid she shouldn't have seen. His words echoed. "What else are you hiding?" Ava wanted to tell him everything, to shed the lie of her blindness and let him see her as Sophia Clark, the CEO of Horizon Enterprises. But trust was a gamble, and Ava had lost too much to bet blindly. She was slipping her contacts back in when a soft knock startled her. Ethan stood in the doorway, his dark hair tousled his green eyes, stormy. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low but firm. He closed the door behind him. The click loud in the silent room. Ava's heart raced, but she kept her face neutral, her cane propped against the dresser for show. About what she asked, tilting her head as if she couldn't see him. He stepped closer, his boots soft on the Persian rug. "Don't do that, Ava. Don't play the blind girl with me." His tone was a mix of frustration and something deeper hurt. "I went through your things last night. I found these." He held up a small case, her tinted contacts glinting inside. Ava's breath caught her carefully built facade crumbling. "Ethan, you had no right." "No right." He cut in, his voice rising. "I'm your husband, Ava. Even if it's just a contract. I've been trying to know you, to care for you, and you've been lying to me. Why?" The room felt smaller, the air thick with tension. Ava's hands trembled, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. "Contacts be damned. You want the truth," she said, her voice shaking. "Fine." She snatched the contacts from his hand, tossing them onto the dresser. "I'm not blind. I haven't been for a year. I faked it to protect myself, to find out who killed my parents. Marcus Brooks did it. Ethan and I've been playing this role to get close to him, to make him pay." Ethan's jaw dropped, his eyes wide with shock. "You..." "What?" He ran a hand through his hair, pacing the room. "You're saying you've been pretending this whole time? The cane, the stumbles, all of it?" "Yes," Ava said, her voice steady now. "I had to. Marcus has been after my parents' trust fund since I was a kid. He tried to steal it, and when they wouldn't give it up, he killed them. I built Horizon Enterprises under the name Sophia Clark to fight back. That's who I am, Ethan. Not the weak girl you married." He stopped pacing, his eyes searching hers. "Horizon Enterprises. You're Sophia Clark." His voice was a whispered disbelief mingling with awe. "The woman who's been outbidding every CEO in New York is..." My wife, Ava, nodded, tears pricking her eyes. "I wanted to tell you, but I was scared. Everyone I've loved has been taken from me. I couldn't risk losing you too." Ethan's face softened, but the hurt lingered. "You didn't trust me, Ava. That's what stings." He stepped closer, his body heat enveloping her. The room's locket-shaped lamp cast a warm glow, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw, the intensity in his eyes. "But I see you now. Every damn part of you. The fighter, the dreamer, the woman who's been carrying this alone." Her breath hitched as he cupped her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks. "Ethan, He silenced her with a kiss, fierce and hungry, like he was claiming every secret she'd kept. Ava melted into him, her hands gripping his shirt, the fabric soft under her fingers. His lips moved against hers, warm and insistent, and for a moment the world was just them. The taste of him, the thud of her heart, the promise of something real. When they pulled apart, breathless, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, Ava," he said, his voice raw. "Not the contract, not the lie. You don't push me away again." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but they were tears of relief. "I won't," she whispered. "I'm done hiding." He kissed her again, softer this time, his hands sliding to her waist, pulling her close. The air crackled with heat, their bodies pressed together, but a sharp ring from Ava's phone broke the spell. She glanced at the screen, a coded message from Lila Carter. "Found something on Claire Montgomery. Meet me at Horizon HQ. Urgent." Ava's stomach twisted. Claire. Ethan's mother had always been a shadow over her. If Lila was calling it urgent, it was bad. She looked at Ethan, his eyes still locked on her, full of trust. "I have to go," she said. "But we're in this together now, right?" "Ride or die," he said, his smile fierce. "Let's do this." Horizon Enterprises' headquarters in Manhattan was a temple of glass and steel, its penthouse office, a shrine to Ava's ambition. A Kehinde Wiley painting hung on the wall, vibrant and bold, a nod to her roots. Ava, as Sophia Clark stood behind her walnut desk, her Tom Ford suit sharp as a blade. Lila Carter sat across from her, her braids pulled into a sleek bun, her laptop open to a spreadsheet that made Ava's blood run cold. "Claire Montgomery's been siphoning money from Caldwell Industries for years," Lila said, her voice low. "Offshore accounts, shell companies, the works. But here's the kicker. Some of those funds trace back to Marcus Brooks. He's got dirt on her, Ava. I think she helped him cover up your parents' crash to protect her own secrets." Ava's hands clenched her nails, digging into her palms. Claire knew Marcus killed them. She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lila nodded. "Looks like it. She funneled money to him through a fake charity, the same one your parents ran. They must have gotten too close to her scam, so Marcus took them out." Ava's vision blurred, not from contacts but from rage. Claire had sat across from her at dinner, her pearls gleaming, her smile cold. Knowing the truth about her parents' murder. "I'm ending this," Ava said, her voice steel. "Set up a meeting with Claire today." The confrontation took place in Claire's office at Caldwell Industries, a sleek space overlooking Central Park. The walls were lined with abstract art, the desk topped with a bottle of Napa Valley Cabernet and a silver-framed photo of Ethan. Claire sat like a queen, her blonde hair pulled into a chignon, her Chanel suit pristine. But Ava wasn't here to bow. "You've been stealing from Caldwell Industries," Ava said, standing tall, her voice calm but lethal. "Millions funneled through fake charities, and you helped Marcus Brooks cover up my parents' murder to keep your hands clean." Claire's eyes flashed, but her smile didn't waver. "You're out of your depth, Ava," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "You think you can waltz in here, a girl from some backwater southern town, and take me down?" Ava stepped closer, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "I'm not just a girl from Georgia, Claire. I'm the woman who built Horizon Enterprises from nothing, and I've got proof. Bank records, emails, your signatures. You're done." Claire's composure cracked, her hands gripping the desk. "You have no idea what you're up against," she hissed. "I did what I had to for this family. You think Ethan will thank you for tearing it apart?" "Ethan deserves the truth," Ava said. "And so do I. Step down from Caldwell Industries. Claire or I send everything to the board, and the FBI." The air was thick with tension, Claire's eyes narrowing to slits. "You're not the weak little thing. I thought she said, her voice cold. But you're still playing a dangerous game. Ava smiled faintly. Good thing I'm winning. She turned, leaving Claire staring after her, the Central Park skyline a silent witness to her victory. Back at the Hamptons estate, Ava's triumph was overshadowed by a new threat. Her phone buzzed with a notification, a viral social media post from an anonymous account accusing Ava of fraud. The post included photos of the forged trust fund papers Marcus had threatened to leak, along with a caption, "Ava Johnson, the blind bride is a liar and a thief." Caldwell scandal, comments poured in. Some calling her a gold digger, others demanding Ethan divorce her. Ava's stomach churned. Marcus was hitting back, and in the age of X, an Instagram a lie could destroy her faster than a bullet. She found Ethan in the estate's library, the firelight casting shadows on the leather-bound books. He was scrolling through his phone, his jaw tight. "You've seen it?" Ava said, her voice quiet. He looked up, his eyes a storm of emotions. "Yeah, it's everywhere." He stood crossing the room to her. "This is Marcus, isn't it? He's trying to ruin you." Ava nodded, her throat tight. "He's desperate. But this could tank Horizon, Ethan, and us." He took her hands, his grip firm. "There's no us without you. Ava, we'll fight this together." He pulled her close, his lips brushing her forehead, then her cheek, then hovering over her mouth. The fire crackled the air, heavy with unspoken promises. Ava's hands slid up his chest, her fingers curling into his shirt. Their lips met, slow and searing, a kiss that felt like a vow. His hands roamed her back, pulling her against him, and Ava let herself forget the world for just a moment. But the world wouldn't wait. Lila's call came through her voice, urgent. "Ava, we've got a lead on Marcus's hacker. And there's more. Claire's been in touch with someone else. Someone big. This goes deeper than we thought." Ava pulled back, her lips tingling, her heart racing. Ethan's eyes locked on hers, fierce and steady. "Whatever's coming," he said, "we face it as a team." She nodded, clutching her locket, the magnolia engraving a reminder of her parents' love. Marcus, Claire, and now a new player they were closing in. But Ava was ready. She'd built an empire, won Ethan's heart, and uncovered the truth. The storm was here, and she'd dance in the rain. The viral post accusing Ava Johnson of fraud spread like wildfire across Instagram and every gossip blog in New York. Ava Johnson, the blind bride, is a liar and a thief. Caldwell scandal. The words burned into Ava's mind as she sat in her penthouse at Hudson Yards, the Manhattan skyline a glittering taunt beyond the glass. Her phone buzzed with notifications. Investors pulling out of Horizon Enterprises, reporters demanding statements, and trolls spewing hate. Marcus Brooks had struck hard, his forged trust fund papers painting her as a gold digger who'd conned the Caldwell family. Ava's hands shook, but she gripped her mother's locket, the Tiffany & Co. magnolia engraving grounding her. She'd built an empire from nothing. She wouldn't let Marcus tear it down. Lila Carter burst into the office, her braids swinging her laptop under one arm. "We've got a problem," she said, her Harlem accent sharp with urgency. "Marcus isn't working alone. Derek Vaughn's bankrolling his hacker. They're planning to sue you for fraud. Ava and Derek spreading rumors that Horizon's laundering money. It's a 1-2 punch." Ava's jaw tightened. Derek Vaughn, the smug CEO of Apex Ventures, had been gunning for her since she outbid him on the Brooklyn redevelopment project. "They're trying to bury me," she said, standing her Tom Ford blazer sharp against her silhouette. "But I'm not going down without a fight." Lila's eyes gleamed. "That's my girl. I've got a forensic accountant digging into Derek's books. If he's dirty, we'll find it. But Marcus, he's getting reckless. My sources say he's holed up in a Long Island motel ready to bolt if this lawsuit fails. Ava nodded, her mind racing. Keep tabs on him, and get me everything you can on Derek. We're hitting back hard, back at the Caldwell estate in the Hamptons. Ava slipped into her role as the blind bride, her tinted contacts a necessary lie despite Ethan knowing the truth. The mansion's marble halls and Norman Rockwell paintings felt colder now. The weight of Marcus's threats pressing down Ethan was her anchor, but even he couldn't shield her from the storm brewing online. As she entered the library, she found him scrolling through his phone, his dark hair falling into his eyes, his jaw tight. "You've seen the post," Ava said, her voice quiet, her cane tapping for show, in case Claire or the staff were nearby. Ethan looked up, his green eyes stormy. "It's everywhere, Ava. My board's freaking out, and Mom's saying we should distance ourselves from you." He stood crossing the room to her. "I told her to shove it, but this is bad." Ava's heart sank. "You're catching heat because of me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Maybe you should." "Don't." He cut in his hand, cupping her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "You're not fighting this alone. We're a team, remember?" His touch was warm, but his eyes held a flicker of doubt, a crack in their fragile trust. Before she could respond, her phone pinged with a new message from an unknown number. Attached was a photoshopped photo of Ava and Derek Vaughn, their bodies closer hand on his arm. The caption read, "Blind bride or cunning seductress, #Caldwell, scandal." Ava's stomach churned. It was a fake, but in the court of public opinion, truth didn't matter. Ethan's phone buzzed at the same time. He glanced at the screen, his face darkening. "What the hell is this?" he asked, holding up the photo. "It's not real," Ava said, her voice shaking. "Marcus or Vanessa sent it to stir trouble. Ethan, you know me. Do I?" He snapped, his voice sharper than she'd ever heard. "You kept your site a secret, your company everything. How do I know there's not more?" The words cut deeper than any knife. Ava's eyes stung, but she refused to cry. "I've bared my soul to you," she said, stepping closer, her voice low and fierce. "I love you, Ethan, and I'm fighting for us. But if you can't trust me, maybe we're done." The library fell silent, the fire crackling in the hearth. The only sound, Ethan's face softened, regret washing over him. "Ava." "I'm sorry," he said, reaching for her. "This is just a lot." He pulled her into his arms, his lips brushing her forehead. "I'm in this okay? All the way." She nodded, her cheek against his chest, his heartbeat steadying her. But the photo lingered, a poison seeping into their bond. Ava knew Marcus was behind it, and she'd make him pay. To clear her head, Ava returned to Savannah, the Johnson family farm, a refuge from New York's chaos. The white clapboard house stood proud under oak trees draped in Spanish moss, the air thick with magnolia and memories. She invited Ethan, hoping the South's warmth could mend the cracks between them. They walked through the fields at dusk, the golden light painting Ava's skin like honey. Her linen dress swayed in the breeze, her curls free, and Ethan couldn't take his eyes off her. "You look like you belong here," he said, his voice soft, his hand brushing hers. "This is my heart," Ava said, stopping by a magnolia tree, its petals falling like snow. "My parents brought me here every summer. They taught me to be proud of who I am no matter what the world thinks." Ethan's fingers laced with hers, his touch electric. "I'm proud of you, Ava," he said, his eyes locking on hers. "I was an idiot back there. I trust you, always will." She smiled, her heart swelling, but before she could speak, a rustle in the bushes made her freeze. A figure darted through the field too fast to identify. Ava's pulse spiked. "Someone's watching us," she whispered. Ethan's grip tightened his body, shielding hers. "Stay here," he said. But Ava shook her head. "No way, we're in this together." They searched the field, finding only footprints in the dirt leading toward the river. Ava's blood ran cold. Marcus was getting bolder, sending someone to tail her. She needed to act fast. The next day, Ava visited a gospel church in Savannah, its wooden pews worn smooth by generations. She'd come to honor her parents, their voices echoing in the hymns she'd sung as a child. The choir's rendition of "Wade in the Water" brought tears to her eyes, her voice joining theirs, raw and powerful. Ethan sat in the back, his eyes fixed on her awe and love written across his face. For a moment, Ava felt whole, her parents' love wrapping around her like a quilt, but the peace didn't last. As they left the church, Ava's phone buzzed with a call from Nathan Hayes, a security guard at Horizon, who'd become an unexpected ally. "Boss, you need to get back to New York," he said, his Harlem accent thick with worry. "Marcus and Derek are meeting at a dive bar in Long Island. I overheard them planning to escalate the lawsuit, and they're talking about taking you out if it fails." Ava's grip tightened on the phone. "Thanks, Nathan. Keep eyes on them." She turned to Ethan, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. "Marcus isn't just playing dirty. He's dangerous." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Then we end this. What's the plan?" "There's a charity auction in New York tomorrow," Ava said. "Big players, big stage. I'll confront Marcus there, but I need evidence to bury him and Derek." Ethan nodded his hand, squeezing hers. "Let's do it." Back in new Sam Duell estate felt like a chessboard. Every move calculated. Ava met Lila at a coffee shop in Soho, its exposed brick walls and artisanal lattes, a stark contrast to the war she was fighting. Lila slid a folder across the table, her eyes gleaming. "Jackpot," she said. "Derek's been embezzling from Apex Ventures, millions funneled to offshore accounts. And Marcus, his hacker, left a digital trail a mile wide. We've got texts, payments, everything." Ava flipped through the folder, her heart pounding. Bank records, screenshots. Even a photo of Marcus and Derek shaking hands at a shady Long Island bar. "This is it," she said, her voice fierce. "We take them down at the auction." But danger was closer than she thought. That night, as Ava drove through Savannah's backroads, a black SUV trailed her, its headlights glaring in her rearview mirror. Her pulse spiked, her hands gripping the wheel of her Rolls-Royce Phantom. She floored the gas, the engine roaring, but the SUV kept pace, swerving to cut her off. Just as it rammed her bumper, a second car, a beat-up Chevy driven by Nathan, slammed into the SUV's side, forcing it off the road. Ava pulled over, her breath ragged. Nathan jumped out, his broad frame silhouetted against the headlights. "You okay, boss?" He called, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Yeah," Ava said, her hands shaking. "Who was that?" "Marcus's hired muscle," Nathan said, checking the SUV now abandoned in a ditch. "He's not playing anymore, Ava. You need to watch your back." She nodded, her mind racing. Marcus was desperate, and desperate men were dangerous. She had to strike first. The charity auction was set for the Metropolitan Club, a bastion of New York's elite. Ava prepared in her penthouse, slipping into a gown from Oscar de la Renta, its deep emerald fabric hugging her curves, a nod to her southern roots. Ethan stood behind her, his reflection in the mirror, a mix of strength and worry. He wore a tailored tux, his Patek Philippe watch glinting on his wrist, a gift from his father that carried the weight of family expectations. "You sure about this?" he asked, his hands resting on her shoulders, his touch warm through the silk. Ava met his eyes in the mirror, her locket gleaming at her throat. "I've never been surer," she said. "Marcus and Derek think they can break me. They're about to learn who I am." Ethan's lips curved, a spark of pride in his gaze. "That's my girl." He leaned down, his lips brushing her neck, a slow, deliberate kiss that sent heat curling through her. "Go get him, Ava." She turned her hands, framing his face, their lips meeting in a kiss that was both promise and fire. The world could wait a little longer. As Ava and Ethan planned their move, a new threat emerged. Lila's latest report, delivered in a coded email, was chilling. Claire Montgomery had been in contact with an unknown player, someone tied to the fake charity that led to Ava's parents' death. The email ended with a warning. "There's more to this than Marcus. Be careful." Ava's blood ran cold. The auction wasn't just a chance to take down Marcus and Derek. It was a step into a deeper, darker game. She stood by her penthouse window, the city lights blurring through her tears. Marcus had killed her parents. Derek had tried to ruin her, and Claire had hidden the truth. But Ethan's love, fierce and unshaken, was her lifeline. She clutched her locket, whispering a vow to her parents. "I'll finish this for you." The Metropolitan Club awaited, and Ava Johnson was ready to fight. The penthouse at Hudson Yards was a fortress of glass and steel, but Ava Johnson felt the walls closing in. The city lights sparkled beyond her window, a cruel reminder of the empire she'd built as Sophia Clark, now teetering under Marcus Brooks's lies and Derek Vaughn's sabotage. The viral post accusing her of fraud had shaken Horizon Enterprises, and the forged trust fund papers Marcus wielded like a weapon threatened to unravel everything. But Ava wasn't done. Her mother's locket, a Tiffany & Co. magnolia gleaming at her throat, anchored her to her purpose. She'd lost her parents to Marcus's greed, but she wouldn't lose her future. Lila Carter's latest report had lit a fire under her. Ava sat at her walnut desk, the Kehinde Wiley painting on the wall, a vibrant testament to her roots as she pored over a coded email. Lila's words were a bombshell. "Found a ledger in Claire Montgomery's safe. It ties Marcus to a network of elites who siphoned your parents' charity funds. Someone else is pulling strings, someone big." Ava's hands shook, her nails digging into her palms. Her parents' crash wasn't just Marcus's doing. It was part of a larger scheme, a web of corruption that reached higher than she'd imagined. Claire knew more than she'd admitted, and Ava was done playing nice. She forwarded the ledger to Lila with a single instruction. "Get this to the FBI now." The charity auction at the Metropolitan Club was tomorrow, a glittering stage where New York's elite would gather. It was the perfect place to expose Marcus and Derek, but the ledger's secrets made Ava's blood run cold. Who was the shadow behind Marcus? And how deep did Claire's betrayal go? "Ethan." Caldwell knocked on the door, his presence a quiet strength. He wore a tailored blazer, his Patek Philippe watch catching the light, but his green eyes were all she saw, fierce, unwavering, full of love. "You okay?" he asked, crossing the room to her. His hand brushed her shoulder, warm through her silk blouse, and Ava leaned into his touch. "Not really," she admitted, her voice soft. "This thing with Marcus, it's bigger than I thought. There's someone else involved. Someone Claire's protecting. I'm walking into a minefield tomorrow." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we walk together," he said, his voice low but firm. "No more secrets, Ava. Whatever you're facing, I'm right here." She turned her hands, framing his face, her thumbs tracing the line of his jaw. "I don't deserve you," she whispered, her eyes searching his. He smiled, a spark of mischief in his gaze. "Nah, you're stuck with me." He leaned down, his lips brushing hers, slow and deliberate, a kiss that promised forever. Ava's hands slid to his chest, feeling the steady thud of his heart, and for a moment the world's chaos faded, but the ledger's shadow loomed, and Ava knew tomorrow would test them both. The Metropolitan Club was a cathedral of opulence, its grand hall draped in silk and lit by chandeliers that rivaled the stars. Tables were set with bone china, and silver bottles of Dom Perignon chilling in crystal buckets. New York's elite filled the room, hedge fund moguls in Brioni suits, socialites in Dior gowns, their laughter masking the deals whispered in corners. Ava, as Sophia Clark glided through the crowd, her emerald Oscar de la Renta gown shimmering like a forest at dusk. Her curls were hidden under a sleek wig, but her confidence was all her own. Ethan stood by her side, his tuxedo sharp, his hand grazing her lower back, a silent vow of support. Marcus Brooks was there, his bald head gleaming, his cheap suit out of place among the elite. Derek Vaughan lounged nearby, his blonde hair slicked back, his smirk as oily as ever. Ava's stomach twisted, but she kept her game face on. Nathan Hayes, her security guard turned ally, lingered at the edges, his broad frame blending with the staff, his eyes scanning for trouble. Lila was in the wings, ready to feed Ava real-time updates via an earpiece. The stage was set, and Ava was ready to bring the house down. The auction began, a Basquiat painting fetching millions, the crowd buzzing with excitement. Ava waited, her heart pounding, until the MC called her to the stage to announce Horizon's pledge for Brooklyn's redevelopment. She stepped up, her heels clicking on the polished floor, the spotlight warm on her skin. Horizon Enterprises is committed to a better future, she said, her voice clear and commanding. But tonight I'm here to talk about truth. The room fell silent. Heads turning. Ava clicked a remote and a screen lit up behind her bank records. Emails, text messages, all tying Marcus and Derek to a web of fraud and murder. Marcus Brooks killed my parents, she said, her voice steady, despite the tears pricking her eyes. He tampered with their car to steal their charity's funds. Derek Vaughan bankrolled his lies, embezzling millions from Apex Ventures to bury Horizon, and they both thought they could silence me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus's face turned ashen, his hands gripping the table. Derek stood, his voice loud but shaky. This is slander. You have no proof. Ava smiled, cold and sharp. Oh, I've got plenty. She played a recorded call, Marcus's voice unmistakable. The lawsuit will crush her, and if that doesn't work, we'll take her out. The room erupted in murmurs, phones flashing as guests recorded the scandal. Nathan signaled security, who moved toward Marcus and Derek. Marcus bolted, shoving past a waiter, but Nathan was faster, tackling him to the ground. Derek tried to slip out, but Lila blocked his path. Her tablet opened to his offshore accounts. Going somewhere, she asked, her voice dripping with sass. Security cuffed them both, dragging them away as the crowd watched. Stunned, Ava stepped down her legs, trembling, but her head high. Ethan met her at the stage's edge, his arms wrapping around her, his lips brushing her temple. You did it, he whispered, his voice thick with pride. You're incredible. She leaned into him, the locket warm against her chest. We did it, she corrected, her voice soft but fierce. The room buzzed around them, but for a moment it was just them, their love, a beacon in the chaos. The fallout was swift. Marcus was arrested, his confession spilling in a stark interrogation room. He'd cut her parents' brake lines after they refused to loan him money, desperate to clear his debts. Derek's embezzlement made headlines, Apex Ventures stock plummeting as investors fled. Horizon's reputation soared, its Brooklyn project, a symbol of Ava's resilience. But the ledger's secrets gnawed at her. Someone else was out there, a shadow pulling strings. Ava confronted Claire Montgomery the next day in the Caldwell Estates study. The room was a shrine to power mahogany shelves, a crystal decanter of Napa Valley Cabernet, a view of the Hamptons' rolling lawns. Claire sat behind her desk, her Chanel suit pristine, but her eyes betrayed her fear. "I know about the ledger," Ava said, her voice calm but lethal. "You helped Marcus cover up my parents' murder to protect your dirty money. Step down from Caldwell Industries. Claire or I send everything to the FBI. Claire's lips tightened, her hands folding on the desk. "You're ruthless," she said, her voice cold. "I underestimated you." "Most people do," Ava replied, her locket glinting in the light. "But Ethan deserves better than your lies. And so do I." Claire's gaze flickered to a photo of Ethan on her desk, her resolve cracking. "I did it for him," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "To keep this family intact." "You did it for yourself," Ava said. "Resign, Claire. Or I will." Claire nodded, her face a mask of defeat. "You win," she said, "but don't think this is over. There are bigger players than me." Ava's blood ran cold, but she held her ground. "I'll find them," she said, turning to leave, "and when I do, they'll wish they'd never crossed me." That night, Ava and Ethan returned to Savannah, the Johnson family farm, a haven after New York's chaos. The white clapboard house glowed under the moonlight, magnolia petals scattered on the porch. They sat by the Ogeechee River, the water shimmering like liquid silver. Ethan pulled Ava close, his arm around her shoulders, his warmth chasing away the chill. "You're a force of nature," he said, his voice soft, his eyes tracing her face. "I'm so damn proud of you." Ava smiled, her fingers lacing with his. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You saw me, Ethan, all of me. That's more than I ever hoped for." He turned to her, his hand cupping her cheek. "I've got something for you," he said, pulling a small Cartier box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, a diamond set in a band engraved with tiny magnolias. "Ava Johnson, will you marry me? Not because of a contract, but because you're my home." Tears spilled down her cheeks, her heart swelling. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Always." He slipped the ring onto her finger, his lips finding hers in a kiss that was both tender and fierce. Their bodies pressed close under the southern stars. The river sang softly a lullaby for their love. But Ava's mind lingered on Claire's warning. There are bigger players. The fight wasn't over, but tonight she chose Ethan, her heart full of hope. The next morning, Ava stood in the magnolia field, the petals falling like promises. Horizon would rebuild its Brooklyn project, a tribute to her parents' legacy. Marcus was behind bars, Derek was ruined, and Claire was stepping down. But the ledger's secrets whispered of a deeper truth, a shadow Ava would one day chase. For now she turned to Ethan, his hand warm in hers, and let herself dream of a future where love was enough. The Savannah sunrise painted the Johnson family farm in hues of gold and pink, the magnolia trees glowing like lanterns in the morning mist. Ava Johnson stood on the porch of the white clapboard house, her bare feet cool against the weathered wood, her linen dress catching the breeze. The locket at her throat, a Tiffany & Co. magnolia, gleamed softly, a reminder of her parents' love and the justice she'd fought for. Marcus Brooks was behind bars, his confession to her parents' murder, a hard-won victory. Derek Vaughan's empire had crumbled, and Claire Montgomery had resigned from Caldwell Industries, her secrets exposed. Horizon Enterprises was thriving, its Brooklyn redevelopment project a beacon of hope. But Ava's heart still raced, haunted by the ledger's hint of a larger shadow, a player in the dark she hadn't yet unmasked. Ethan Caldwell stepped onto the porch, his dark hair tousled, his eyes warm as they found hers. The Cartier ring on her finger engraved with tiny magnolias sparkled in the light, a promise of their future. "Morning, fiancé," he said, his voice low and teasing, his arm slipping around her waist. His touch sent a shiver through her, a quiet heat that felt like home. "Morning, trouble," she replied, leaning into him, her curls brushing his cheek. "You ready for today?" He chuckled, his lips grazing her temple. "Ready to watch you steal the show." Always today was their engagement party, a celebration of love and triumph hosted in the magnolia field behind the farmhouse. But Ava's mind lingered on the anonymous letter she'd received. Yesterday slipped under her door at the Hamptons estate. Marcus wasn't alone. "Watch your back." The words were a cold whisper, a reminder that her fight might not be over. She hadn't told Ethan yet, not wanting to dim their joy. But the weight of it pressed against her chest. The magnolia field was transformed into a southern dream tables, draped in white linen mason jars filled with wild flowers and fairy lights strung between the trees. A gospel choir from the Savannah church Ava loved stood ready, their voices warming up with soft hums of "Oh Happy Day." Guests arrived: Lila Carter in a vibrant yellow dress, her braids adorned with gold beads. Nathan Hayes, his security guard, swagger softened by a tailored suit, and even a few New York allies, their designer threads a nod to the world Ava had conquered. The air smelled of barbecue and magnolia, the laughter mingling with the strum of a guitar. Ava stood at the field's edge, her off-shoulder dress a soft ivory, its silk flowing like water. Ethan joined her, his linen shirt open at the collar, his Patek Philippe watch glinting. "You look like a queen," he said, his voice thick with awe, his hand finding hers. "And you look like trouble," she teased, her eyes sparkling. "But you're my kind of trouble." He pulled her close, their bodies swaying to the choir's warm-up, a slow dance under the trees. His hands settled on her hips, his breath warm against her ear. "I'm gonna spend the rest of my life dancing with you, Ava Johnson," he murmured, his lips brushing her neck, a kiss that sent heat curling through her. She tilted her head, her lips grazing his jaw. "Better keep up." "Caldwell," she whispered, her voice husky. The world faded, the choir's hum, a distant melody, until Lila's voice broke the spell. "Y'all gonna save some of that for the wedding," or what Lila called her grin wide as she approached a glass of sweet tea in hand. Ava laughed, stepping back but keeping Ethan's hand in hers. "Jealous Lila girl. I'm just trying to keep this party PG." Lila shot back, winking. "You ready to make your big speech?" Ava nodded, her heart full but heavy. The speech wasn't just about their engagement. It was about her parents, their legacy, and the future she and Ethan would build. She squeezed Ethan's hand, drawing strength from his steady presence, and stepped toward the makeshift stage. The choir launched into a soulful rendition of "This Little Light of Mine," their voices soaring over the field. Ava took the microphone, her gaze sweeping the crowd. Friends, allies, and a few curious locals who'd known her as a girl. "Thank y'all for being here," she said, her voice clear and warm, her southern roots shining through. "This isn't just about me and Ethan. It's about family, about fighting for what's right, about never giving up." She paused, her hand brushing the locket, tears pricking her eyes. "My parents, Grace and Samuel Johnson, taught me to stand tall, to love fiercely, to build something that matters. They were taken from me, but their love lives on in this farm, in Horizon Enterprises, in every brick we'll lay in Brooklyn." Marcus. Brooks tried to steal that legacy, but he failed. Because of y'all, because of love, truth, and a little southern grit, we won. The crowd cheered, clapping and whistling, the choir humming in harmony. Ethan stepped up beside her, his arm around her waist, his eyes shining with pride. "Ava's the strongest person I know," he said, taking the mic. "She's my partner, my home, and I'm damn lucky to be hers. So here's to her, to us, and to a future where we keep fighting for what's right. The applause was deafening, glasses raised in a toast. Ava's heart swelled, but the anonymous letter's warning lingered. As the choir sang, she caught Nathan's eye across the field. He gave a subtle nod, his hand resting on his phone, a reminder he was tracking the letter's source. Ava forced a smile, refusing to let fear steal this moment. Later, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of peach and lavender, Ava and Ethan slipped away to the Ogeechee River. The water sparkled its gentle flow, a contrast to the storm they'd weathered. They sat on a blanket, a bottle of Napa Valley Chardonnay between them, their bare feet brushing the grass. Ethan's hand traced lazy circles on her back, his touch grounding her. "We did it," Ava said, her voice soft, her eyes on the river. "Marcus is gone. Derek's finished. Claire's out, horizons stronger than ever." Ethan's hand stilled his gaze, searching hers. "But you're still carrying something," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "Talk to me, Ava." She hesitated, then pulled the anonymous letter from her pocket. Its creased paper, a silent threat. "This came yesterday," she said, handing it to him. "Someone's out there." Ethan Marcus wasn't the only one behind my parents' death. Ethan's jaw tightened as he read the note, his hand crumpling the edge. "We'll find them," he said, his voice fierce. "Whoever it is, they don't get to touch you. Not now. Not ever." Ava's throat tightened, tears spilling over. "I'm tired of fighting," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I just want us this here now." Ethan pulled her into his arms, his lips brushing her forehead, then her cheeks, then her lips, a kiss that was both comfort and fire. "You've got us," he whispered, his breath warm against her skin. "And I'll fight with you for you always. But tonight, it's just you and me." She melted into him, her hands sliding up his chest, their kiss deepening slow and searing, the river's song wrapping around them. The world could wait. For now, Ava let herself believe in love. In the future, they'd build in the magnolias that would bloom again. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Horizon Enterprises broke ground on the Brooklyn Project, a community of affordable homes and green spaces that honored Ava's parents. Ava was named to Forbes's 30 Under 30. Her story of resilience inspiring millions. She and Ethan founded the Grace and Samuel Johnson Foundation, a charity supporting Black communities, its first grant rebuilding the Savannah church, where Ava had found solace. Marcus's trial ended with a life sentence, his confession broadcast on every major network. Derek Vaughan faced federal charges, his name a cautionary tale in business circles. Claire, true to her word, faded from public life. Her parting words to Ava, a grudging respect. "You're more than I ever was." But the anonymous letter haunted Ava. Lila and Nathan traced it to a burner phone in New York, its owner a ghost. The ledger's secrets hinted at a network of elites, their names buried in encrypted files. Ava hadn't yet cracked. She shared her fears with Ethan one evening in the farmhouse's kitchen, the smell of cornbread baking in the oven. "What if it's not over?" she asked, her voice quiet, her hands kneading dough, a habit she'd picked up from her grandmother. Ethan stood behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Then we face it together," he said, his voice steady. "You've already taken down the worst of them, Ava. Whoever's left, they're no match for you." She turned, her hands dusted with flour, her eyes searching his. "You really believe that?" He smiled, his lips brushing hers, a kiss that tasted of promise and cornbread. "I'd bet my life on it." The engagement party had been a beginning, but Ava wanted to seal their love in the place that mattered most. On a crisp evening, she led Ethan to the magnolia field, the trees aglow with fairy lights, the choir's voices rising in a soft rendition of Stand By Me. She wore a simple white dress, her curls free, the locket shining at her throat. Ethan, in a linen suit, looked at her like she was the only star in the sky. "This is where we start," Ava said, her voice thick with emotion, her hand in his. "Not with a contract, not with lies, but with us." Ethan's eyes glistened, his hand tightening around hers. "You're my home." "Ava," he said, his voice raw, "always will be." They exchanged vows under the magnolias. Not a wedding, but a promise, their words weaving a future stronger than any storm. The choir sang. The petals fell, and Ava felt her parents' presence. Their love eternal. She'd made them proud, and with Ethan by her side, she'd face whatever lay ahead. As they danced under the stars, Ava's heart was light, but the letter's warning lingered, a quiet call to keep searching. The shadow was out there, but for now she chose Ethan, the magnolias, and the life they'd build. The river sang, the choir hummed, and Ava Johnson, once a scorned bride, was finally free. Hey y'all, thank you for riding with Ava and Ethan through this wild, heartfelt journey in Ande Magnolia. If their love grit and southern soul touched your heart, hit that subscribe button, share the story, and drop a comment below. What was your favorite moment? The auction takedown, the river kiss, or the magnolia vows? And should Ava hunt down that mysterious shadow? Let us know and stay tuned for more stories that'll keep you hooked.